All right, this is a special edition of Live at Chance's House, brought to you by Joe's Tavern and Grill, our illustrious sponsors. I want to introduce a friend of mine and a singer-songwriter from Nashville. His name is Blu Sanders. Blu, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a little warm, but I'm doing pretty good.
So I figured that we could just, rap about whatever we want. There's no agendas here. I've been doing this now for about 10 episodes, and I've got about 3 interviews under my belt. And by no stretch of the imagination do I say that I'm an expert in this, but I actually enjoy and have a lot more fun just riffing. So we'll just have a conversation.
Sure. Let's do
it. I think most importantly, because a lot of people were introduced to you last week when I did this episode, I played a song from one of your older albums. I played Get in the Car and Drive, but I played the full band version because I like that song a lot. And I kind of told everyone what was going on and what you're doing. So why don't you just introduce yourself and give us a quick history? There's people watching and they're going to want to know.
Well, let's see. I'm from El Paso. My name's Blu Sanders. I started playing music in high school, and I started guitar lessons, sometime in high school, and I started a band. Like, we had a gig. So a friend of mine, Rick Brooks was his name. He played the drums. He's now a fireman in Las Vegas. And Paul Armendariz, who was always just he was like the younger brother of Mike Armendariz. I don't know if you know the Armendariz brothers. And Paul was like this young kid who could just play the guitar, even when he was like 13 years old. And so we got a band together. We decided, I would say we were pretty bad. If I had to, take an honest look at what we were doing at 17, and Paul was a couple years younger, and Rick and I were the same age. And we got a gig, and we didn't have a singer, and we were getting close. We were going to play like at a tailgate party in the parking lot, and it was getting down to the wire. We had no singer. We had learned some covers, and I said, well, I guess I could try to be the singer. And Rick and Paul were like, well, no, we're going to find a singer, man. We're going to search high and low. And we never found a singer. So I ended up being the singer. And that was the first time I thought, well, I'm not a terrible singer. We had written one original song, and we played a gig in the parking lot, and it was probably my best gig I've ever played, I think, in the history of my life as a musician. I have it on video. My dad was there. My dad's not alive anymore. It was actually, some friends that are not alive anymore were in there. It was actually really great I'll post it sometime. I had incredible hair. It was like a really great moment in my personal history. And anyway, that was the time I kind of thought, maybe I should try to do music. And at that time, I was going to go to UT Austin Business School. I was enrolled. I had a dorm. I was ready to go. And then I met this guy who had a band in El Paso, and we went out to do he wanted me to sing on some songs he had recorded out at what is now Sonic Ranch, and one of the best studios in the world. I don't know if you're familiar with the studio out in Tornillo.
I'm not.
But, oh man, it's amazing. And bands from all over the world.
Where did you say it was?
Tornillo.
Oh, in Tornillo.
Tornillo. Yeah. And at the time, it was just one. First, there was a little studio called Penny Lane in El Paso, which was an 8-track tape studio.
Manny Molina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went in there with me and Paul Armendariz. We had our little acoustic duo. We sadly called 2 of 1, which is kind of amazing now. That name's kind of amazing now. At the time, now, never mind. I'm trying to judge. I try not to judge my past by my present. And even in the process of, I know we're going to talk about the albums that I just put out. I'm trying to just let the past be what it was, which was a time where I was actually excited about music. I really thought I had a future in music. Those dreams have all been crushed 1,000 times over the last 25 years. But at that time, like we all do in a great way, we're excited about it. We think we can do it. We think probably that we're better than we actually are. But that fire you sort of lose over time, but not back then. And so I had been in this studio, and I loved Penny Lane. I thought it was a great studio.
I recorded there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but then I went to what was Sonic Ranch was called Village Recording, I think at the time. Tony Rancich, he has a massive, gorgeous pecan farm out there. There a lot of the, I think was like Yugoslavian farmers ended up on the far east side of El Paso growing nuts. And pecans are like, it's like, as far as I can tell, it's like growing gold on a tree. You know, like they're just, nuts are expensive, and El Paso's a great place to grow them. And so you have a lot of people out that have done, you've seen them, the pecan orchards everywhere there. And his place is beautiful. At the time, it was one studio only. And now it's like 6 different, it's like a huge recording complex. You can live there. They cook for you. It's this extraordinary just piece of property out in the desert in the middle of nowhere where you can just focus on music. It's amazing. But at the time, it was still amazing for me because I'd never been in a big studio. So I went in and got recorded some, what I can only imagine were terrible vocals on these songs. But it was, I was hooked. I thought it was incredible. So I did not go to UT Austin. I de-enrolled from there, which was probably a terrible mistake, but nothing I can do about it now. And I went to UTEP, which I loved. And then after a couple years of UTEP, I went to Austin. Because everybody kind of went to Austin to be in music. If you're in Texas, that's kind of where you went. Austin had sort of perpetuated this myth, and I think it's a myth, of being the best place in the world to go for music. I think now that I've lived a long time in Nashville and in New York, I think that's kind of silly. I love Austin to death. It's one of my favorite places on earth. I love my musical history there. I love all the musicians that I grew up musically there. Incredible people. But in terms of like going to try to play in the major leagues of music, the best thing I ever did was leave Austin. But I'm skipping ahead. I went to Austin Community College, ended up getting a degree at UT Austin, Management Information Systems. I was a little consultant database programmer dude. I worked at Dell. I worked at a couple startups. And then as the tech boom sort of went into flames and everyone's dreams were crushed again. It's like life is just a series of like dreams being crushed at certain times. And that was one of them. I had 7 figures of stock at a company I worked at. And then we went public. It was amazing for a very short amount of time. And then it all just evaporated into thin air. But I took that time. Some of my friends were moving from Austin to New York, and I went to New York. And please stop me. You can rein me in at any time if I'm just rambling on.
No, I'm very interested.
Okay. Well, I went to New York. I got a college booking agent, and was a great way for a young singer-songwriter to make a living. And you could actually go to trade shows and get booked in colleges. Every college has an entertainment budget. Even the small college has $500 to pay some artist or magician or speaker or anything. And there's a whole circuit they call the coffee house circuit. And you could go to Lincoln Land Community College in nowhere, Iowa, which I did. And you could go to UT Austin probably and play. It would be more like the Cactus Cafe type in UT Austin. You would, or maybe some benefactor donated an entire music venue, and there was this phenomenal music venue. You'd play to like 10 people, and you'd be the only guy. Or you were in the cafeteria, but you got $500 like a minimum to play these gigs. And so I traveled, all over the country doing that. Thinking, well, maybe I have a shot. The king of the college acoustic circuit was John Mayer, probably around that time, I don't know. I didn't know John Mayer was as good as John Mayer is until I saw him live at an arena. And then I was like, oh my God, this guy's incredible. But at the time, like when you're just like in the white guy singer-songwriter genre, and you're like, who's that guy that everybody loves and has that song? And then you go see him and you're like, okay, I know it's that guy. All right, maybe I should go back and get a master's and just wrap it up.
Well, did you do that, or did you kind of stick with the tech thing, or did you end up going back to school?
Oh no, No. I was done tech. I haven't done tech since, although I am currently reevaluating my life during COVID. But we can get to that. That's 20 years later.
Right.
I met my who is now my good friend, and another person who did extremely well in that area was Matt Nathanson. And I had a manager at the time, and she started working for Matt's manager. And I got put on the road basically with Matt, and I would open up for him at a lot of these colleges where he would just kill it. And if you see Matt, you know he's just good.
Yeah.
And he's super funny, and he's really great and smart and engaging, and he would just slay it every time. And Matt's fans were always, you know, I guess it's this way for anybody that's associated with a particular act, but the fans usually are super good to you. And so I toured with Matt for a while, and we were relatively the same age, although I like to make it clear that he's a couple years older than me. And it was kind of nice, like as we sort of aged out of the, you know, genre that we were playing in, we could still, we had a lot in common. And he kind of kept me alive for several years on the road, and has just become a good friend now. But I mean, learned a lot from him, still learn a lot. I went on the road with him last year for the first time. I hadn't toured in the better part of a decade, and you know, he's as good as ever, and better than me. And those things are good, like when you have somebody you can look up to and learn from. But around that time when we started touring, and you know, just, it was right after 9/11. I moved into my apartment on September the 2nd, 2001.
Oh, wow.
So I was a week out of 9/11. Yeah, it was a pretty just such a bizarre time to move to New York, and tragic, of course, amazing in some ways post 9/11, you know, with just how everybody was and existed together. And I think that's you know, was brief, but and then I got a cut on a country record by the Jack Ingram, who I didn't know at all, and I never really was a country guy. I still don't really feel like I'm a country guy, which is I mean, Nashville doesn't.
There's a lot of crossover anyway. I mean, and I appreciate all kinds of music. So I mean, you can listen to one type of music and someone else could record it and, you know, have a completely different take on it, and then all of a sudden it could be a country song. Absolutely,
yeah. And so but it was from Austin, where I had recorded a song out at Hamstein Publishing with Mike McCarthy, who was now he produced. I mean, he's a great engineer, producer, mixer. He was the house guy at Hamstein Publishing, which had a big office in Austin. Not a lot of the music business winds up in Austin. A lot of it kind of went to Austin and then wouldn't work, and then they'd go back to Nashville. At this time, Hamstein was a huge music publisher. He was the ZZ Top. You know, that's how we put that stuff together. We recorded a song. Billy White, my friend Billy White, produced it, and Mike eventually moved back to Nashville, where he had come from, and was doing a record with Jack Ingram, and they were just randomly, he threw one of my songs in the mix and they recorded it. And that was the first time I ever thought, well, what's a songwriter? I didn't really know what a songwriter was. I mean, I was writing songs, not real good songs, but I ended up going to Nashville, and just I literally went to the producer, Frank Liddell's door, knocked on the office and said, "Hey man, I wrote this song and you recorded it. What do I do?" And they kind of said, "Well, just come here and we can try to set you up with some co-writes." And that led to a publishing deal and me moving to Nashville. And it wasn't amazing. I always call the publishing deal, Play School's my first publishing deal, which means it's wildly skewed in favor of the publishing company and not worth very much money. And so, but I was getting paid to be a songwriter. That lasted 6 years. And then in 2010, I went back home to El Paso. My father was battling Lou Gehrig's disease. My deal ended, which was kind of a good thing. I packed everything I had. I left. I went back home. I was there for 18 months with him until he passed away. And then a few months later, I needed to get a job. And I was about to go back to tech. That's kind of what I thought back then. I thought, well, my time is done, and that's okay. I had sort of recalibrated, and I was ready to do whatever I needed to do. My dad I mean, I didn't sadly inherit a fortune. I had to go get work. So I called a buddy of mine though on the road who I had known from my publishing years. He worked with the Eli Young band who I had worked with and had some songs on their records. And I said, man, he was tour managing Chris Young at the time. And I called him and said, look, I've never worked on the road, but if you have any jobs, I need a job, and I'm about to go buy some khakis and go back to corporate America. So, and he said, well, I don't have anything, but Chris at the time was managed by Miranda's manager. And he said, call Jordan Powell, who's the tour manager for Miranda. They're looking for a PA. I didn't know what that was, but I called Jordan Powell. It was like a Wednesday. And he said, man, if you can be here on Saturday, you can have a job. So I packed all my stuff and I drove my dad's car full of things to bring my sister to San Antonio. I dropped that car off for her and got on an airplane and flew to Nashville. And I've been working for Miranda for almost 9 years now. And still writing songs. I had probably the best cuts I've had since, I was after I got after I left my publishing deal. I had a Kelly Clarkson, Vince Gill song that I've never hit a home run with music as far as songs go. That earned more money, and I'm a little bit more money than most of the other things I'd ever done. I mean, I've never really earned enough money to make a living. So it was kind of a welcome relief actually to work on the road. I got to be around music, but actually get a paycheck that wasn't terrible, which was great, and I could still write. And let's put COVID aside. I still let me get my computer screen up. That's my lighting. That's my secret trick to lighting. Is to have a big white web browser open. It looks good. Like
it does.
That's the way to do it.
Why buy the light that you need for your web camera when you can just use your screen?
No, I'm serious. Just put a big white. Just open up. I've got Instagram and your thread up right now, and so I look beautiful. Look at me. Anyway, I sing like every night for the last few years. I've gotten up and sang a song with Miranda. So I still get to be in music. I've still been making records. But I think you realize at some point in your life that unless you have a bottomless pit of money, it's really expensive to put albums out and to pay anyone even a fraction of what they're worth. And so, I've just been surviving in whatever way I can survive in music. And you also learn over time that there are other, it's not just all or nothing. It's not like I'm either a wildly successful artist or I'm zero. There are so many different ways you can remain in music and do the things you want to do. And, that's just the reality on planet Earth. And then, so that gets us to now where the music business has essentially instantaneously disappeared with no future in sight. And so we're all sort of struggling with what we do for money and there's literally no money coming in all of a sudden. And it's like all the dominoes just fell at one time. And we're going to be one of the last people to get back on our feet because our job requires assembling lots of people in one area, which is not good for viruses. So they've just got to figure that out. In the meantime, I think I've been calling it the rapid self-evaluation plan, where I'm trying to figure out immediately, like, what am I worth? What are my skills? Can I earn a living in any other way? And I'm not sure those answers just yet. I think we're all in this business. So a lot of the touring folks especially are just trying to figure out, like, what do we do? So that's a bigger question that we could never answer in a short amount of time. But
well, let me ask you this.
That's my quick history.
Well, that's awesome. And I just learned a lot. I mean, so for those that are watching and obviously the connection is that we know each other. Here's how we know each other, though. We grew up in the same town. We went to the same high school. We hung out in the same circles. We share a ridiculous amount of the same friends. And while we knew each other there when we were growing up in El Paso, we didn't have the same circle. And I actually came later in the music scene because I didn't even start playing guitar until I was 19. So I'd already graduated. And then I started playing guitar, did the same thing, took a few lessons, and it was like, oh, I'm going to write some songs. It's kind of funny that you said, well, I didn't write a lot of very good songs at first. And even if you think that you did, we always kind of pat ourselves on the back. I've written, probably 60 songs, and I think 58 of them are bad.
Yeah,
but The thing I was going to ask you though is you're segueing kind of past your history. So, I mean, how do you feel about that? Trying to reevaluate what you're doing? Is it depressive? Are you happy about it? Are you, where does
You
music
know,
fall into this right now? What are you going to do?
well, music is sort of the constant in my life. It's, I mean, just like photography is the constant. I mean, at some point you have to have a come to Jesus with yourself when you are turning 46 years old, or even when you're turning 36 years old, or whatever. I mean, you can't live in a fantasy land forever. It just, you've got bills to pay. I have mortgages to pay. I mean, it doesn't work like that. It was really when I went home to El Paso that I sort of, and I was 35 at the time. And I just, well, the good news is as a songwriter, you can write forever. So you
Yeah.
could hit it out of the park tomorrow or in 10 years. I mean, and people do. But at some point you have to be realistic about what's required to literally just live on planet Earth. And I don't feel weird. I mean, it is a weird thing. I mean, I've been self-evaluating for a while. My job on the road with Miranda has been a great job. And I've been able to buy a small home in Nashville, which was great. And then even another one. I mean, I cleaned up my debts, like just basic financial stuff that some people never get in ahead of. I've been able to do that on a pretty modest salary. I'm super proud of that and glad that I did it. I've been sort of trying to figure out what am I going to do in 10 years? Where am I going to be in 5 years? I mean, I'm not setting like Dave Ramsey goals of financial success or anything like that. I'm just thinking, who am I? What am I doing? And I've been trying to evaluate that for a while. This just sort of, the COVID stuff and the lack of a job all of a sudden was just an instantaneous, hey man, guess what? You can't go get a tech job tomorrow because you haven't built a database in 20 years.
Yeah.
But I actually, as a guy who used to write code, songwriting and code writing to me is very, very similar. It's you write text, then you run it down and you look for bugs or you listen for bugs. And when it hiccups, you stop and you look at your co-writer and you talk about, well, what are we talking about? Where are we going? What does this mean? And then you keep running the song like a program until it runs smoothly. It is like the same brain process to me. So to that extent, I've never sort of left that approach to problem solving. I've always been engaged in technology. And at this point in my life, I mean, I hope we get back on the road soon. I hope we do. I don't think it's going to happen until next spring is what I'm sort of hearing for big tours. That doesn't mean there's not going to be small opportunities along the way. But most of us, we got real bills to pay. Like we can't just wait it out. I mean, unless you have a lot of money in the bank, which I don't. So I'm just sort of, I've always said I would do anything in the world now, or even 5 years ago, or in 10 that's compelling and interesting to me. I would do anything. I mean, I'm not chasing the carrot anymore. I feel like I'm writing the best music I've ever written. I'm singing better than I've ever been singing, but I'm not sort of destroying everything in my life in pursuit of this thing that you never achieve. And I just won't do that anymore. But that doesn't mean I don't care about music. I think I care more than I've ever cared, but I'm trying to do it for the joy of doing it, which frankly is a lot more enjoyable.
I couldn't agree more. I've followed the path of, I went to college and then got a job, and I have a retail job, and I never thought that I would be doing that at all in my life. It wasn't something that I went to school for, obviously. But I get a lot of enjoyment out of it because I get to spend time with people. And I've been doing music things this whole time, but I've been playing in a lot of cover bands. And that's always been kind of fulfilling because I love to entertain. Like the part of me that I love about music is I just love to be in front of people and make people happy and make them smile. And they go, man, that was great. But it's not even about accolades or anything. So when I've actually thought a lot about that. I'm very jealous of my friends who can play 200 different cover songs. I never learned that way. I learned like by creating my own music, which I sort of regret. I kind of wished I had learned
Crazy Train and, you know, Stairway to Heaven. And then every other song, I admire people, you know, even like, for example, Matt Nathanson at all his shows, he's always playing covers, but he actually knows a ton of covers. And I don't know them. And so I was talking to a buddy the other day and I said, wait a minute, are you telling me, shouldn't I be able to learn 50 songs and go play acoustic for a daytime gig at some bar patio and make more than $16 an hour, which you make on Amazon Flex delivery packages?
Yeah.
Surely I can do that. So, I mean, and it's not like, but it's for a different reason. It's because I'm a skilled singer. I can perform. I mean, why don't I try to use those skills to like supplement my income right now? It seems totally logical. And I don't have any qualms with learning songs, or, I mean, I used to, and even that seems silly in retrospect, but I've thought a lot about that actually. I've thought, well, maybe, I mean, there's a lot of people who play music in Nashville and a lot of incredible people who play music in Nashville, but there's always room. And so I've thought about that. I've thought about it.
Well, it was something that I did for a long time. And a couple of years ago, maybe it's almost 3, the band that I'd been playing with for almost better part of 20 years, we didn't really take a break. We just kind of took a hiatus. It seems like everyone had their own projects and things that they were doing. So I kind of focused on me again, and I haven't done a whole lot, but I actually recorded a cover song back in 2017. And I did it right after Chris Cornell died. And I recorded a version of Audio Slave's Like a Stone. But I did it acoustic. I did it all acoustic. I did everything in this office, as a matter of fact. And a friend of mine mixed and mastered it, and he put it together. I'm like, you know, this is kind of cool. Well, I got involved with the charity, and they needed a song. And it was actually a charity called OK to Say. And it was about mental health awareness. And I was like, anything I do, I'm going to donate. If it makes any money at all, I'm going to donate it. And so that kind of got me started, you know, a couple of years back. And then I started playing some of those coffee house and acoustic bar type things. And then I wrote a song, and the song came out of something that was sort of tragic, but to be honest with you, it was very cathartic for me to do it. And then I made a video. And then just a couple of months ago, I decided, out of nothing other than I wanted people to experience the same kind of feeling that I did, I put it out. And, you know, it's doing okay. Yeah. It's not doing great. It's doing That's okay. Awesome. But it's, you know, it's doing something more than I've ever done. But I get more, for me, I'll give you an example. I got an Instagram message from someone the other day who listened to the song, and they said, this song made my day. And if that was the only person in the world that I affected, I'm completely and 100% satisfied. And it was amazing.
I 100% agree. I agree. I mean, and what else can you do at this point? I mean, you have to take those wins, and they make you feel good. I love that stuff. I mean, I don't have a lot of people. I mean, I know we haven't talked about this album I just put out, but I mean, I don't think
we're going to get to the album.
I don't know if I'm going to sell 10 albums. I mean, honestly, I probably will lose money like I've lost on. I mean, I won't lose a lot of money because I recorded it myself, and it didn't cost me anything. But
can you mix and master on your own, or you just got the best possible recording that you could get at home?
Yeah, I'm not really a studio dude. I just
it sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, I can make a guitar vocal sound pretty good. I just used one mic, and that was it. And then I had a friend of mine, Justin Glasgow. He mastered everything, put them all in Pro Tools, and just kind of helped DS my super S's on this SM7, and you know, got everything sounding like it belonged on an album. And then, but I really didn't do anything. I just. Yeah, there was no mixing really. I mean, it was the track, and then I put a compressor, and usually it's a compressor and some reverb on it, and that was it. I mean, it's real simple. I didn't EQ anything. I didn't do anything like that.
Well, let's get into that, as a matter of fact. So everyone, sure. I played a song last week from Blu, from one of his earlier albums. It was called Get in the Car and Drive, but he's got 2 albums out right now. And we're going to talk about this, a 50 in 50 days, but he's got 2 albums, An Exercise in Loneliness, Volume 1 and Volume 2. It's 25 songs each. And to be honest with you, it's a great value because it's an hour and a half worth of music on each one, and he's put a great price out there. So if you go out there on iTunes, if you go to iTunes, you go to Spotify, you can listen to it, of course. But, you know, look, I'm not afraid to say it. I bought both of them at $7 a piece, or you can buy the individual songs. I mean, what else could you do? And it's sounds awesome. So talk about the 50 and 50, Blue, and what, I mean, I know COVID had to have started it, but what really,
Yeah, sure.
when did you decide I'm going to record 50 songs in 50 days?
I did not decide it. I don't think. I just kind of never stopped it. Well, first I had seen, I mean, I've always wanted to do more musically. I feel like I've kind of been absent from my own music for a while. Last year I did go on the road with Matt, which was great. I made an EP last year, which I hadn't done in a long time. So I had done a few things in the last year. And but I honestly, I'd seen so many people putting music out during the first parts of the quarantine, and I really loved it. I thought it was, and I still do. I think it's been a spectacular time for art because everyone's at home. You have a lot of time. And so I recorded, but I didn't know what to record. And so I just did the Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, which I had recently found and loved so much because it reminded me of the 80s and Miami Vice and the Lamborghini. And, you know, it was like, and then I ended up watching the pilot of Miami Vice again, which was just so terribly awesome.
I love that show.
Oh, I loved it too. Oh yeah, for sure. And
I was
love
so sad. Which song? You Belong to the City?
No, well, I love that too. No, Blinding Lights.
Yeah.
I love Smuggler's Blues. Yeah, I love all the Miami Vice stuff. But Blinding Lights has that sort of, even the video, it's like it reminded me of, and I'm sure intentionally, of Miami Vice. And so I decided to play that song. And that was probably still, out of the 50 songs, the most listened to song. I don't know if that's because people search for. I was nervous actually about putting even the title of the song because record labels are so weird about pulling content online, especially in YouTube. But I was worried about it, but they never pulled it down, or they haven't yet.
Well, I mean, let me ask you something real quick, because when I did this, I don't know if you use TuneCore, if you use like CD Baby, or how you did it, but I mean, did you set it up with
Distro? I use DistroKid for my albums. So,
I mean, was there an option? I mean, you're obviously song written by someone else, you paying distribution, so they're not going to pull it down, right?
Well, the video itself, like not the album, but the video on Instagram, because you don't license that stuff. I mean, in theory, you can't do it. In theory, it's illegal to play someone else's song like that. But it's not monetized, so I don't think they care as much. On YouTube, they'll yank that stuff. There'll be a bot that yanks that immediately. I mean, you won't get it. I don't know. You're technically, in theory, you have to buy a license to do that stuff. But I guess so I did that song, and everyone, frankly, was super nice about it. And I did not put my good audio on it. The way I did it is, we talked about earlier, is I recorded on my phone, and then I also record through my mic, and then I go through and take the good audio and attach it to the movie or to the video, and then save it out and then upload that. But I did not do that for the very first song, because I thought someone's gonna call me out for like adding reverb to my bedroom track. So I really debated. I even texted Matt Nathanson about it, and I was like, do I put on good audio or bad audio? And he was like, you just do whatever you want. And so anyway, I put the regular one, and then I ended up posting another one with better audio. I did on that one. But so everyone was just so nice about it. So I put another one up, and then everyone was nice about it. So I put another one up, and honestly, there is no way in the world, if I started today or 6 months ago and said, hey, I'm going to play 50 songs for 50 days, I would not think that I had 50 songs that I was comfortable singing for the general public, especially when most of them, I probably did 5 covers, but I don't think I have enough songs that I feel comfortable enough playing for people. So I would have never have thought I could do 50, but it just started going, and I just kept going every morning. And then, a couple people would be, someone messaged me once and was like, it's 10 a.m. on the West Coast. You okay?
Why aren't you playing? What's going on?
I was like, well,
I didn't know there was a timeline.
I was going to eat breakfast. Is that okay? I don't know. But there was a handful, and not many, but there was a handful of people. I mean, there's just not that many, period. But it actually started, like, I'd wake up and I'd be like, okay, and I at the time, I had like a 2-month sort of non-COVID cough. And I mean, it was hard to sing every day because I had this horrible cough. And you can hear it on some. I was listening to one of the songs the other day, and I was like, "Oh God, man, my voice sounds terrible." I mean, if you heard all it took to get to those takes of me just coughing, and then I would talk for 3 minutes and then sing, and so I mean, I would try to have no mistakes. That's really hard to do. But all of a sudden, it was 20 songs, and then it was 30, and then it was 40, and then at 50, I just mentally was like, "Okay, I got to stop this."
I'm done.
I mean, first of all, I wanted to put an album out. I thought, well, this sounds decent. I'll put an album out. Then I thought, well, I'll pick 10, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll pick. Then I looked on DistroKid where what I used to distribute, and they said you can put 35 songs on an album. So I was like, okay, I'll put 35. And then I thought, fuck it, I'll just put 50.
Put all of them on. Why not?
Yeah. And then I was like, well, what order do I put them in? So then I thought, well, no, I'll just do them. Start whatever, number 1 to number 50. I picked a couple of Instagram pictures off of because mostly my Instagram was just pictures of the sky. I mean, it was almost all pictures of the sky, which I love. But then I felt weird actually putting a video of myself in my feed. But if you don't put it in your feed, nobody sees it. It's like you could have 1,000 videos on your Instagram TV channel, but if that's not what you do, then nobody sees them. So I started posting them, and I thought 50 was a good round number.
So I don't know.
It wasn't like 50 is a magic number.
No, that makes sense. So I don't know if you, I don't know if this was answered or not, but is the audio recordings that you put onto iTunes and distributed and everything on all the streaming platforms, is that the actual same thing as the Instagram video?
Same thing. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you went back and re-recorded it like you did the Instagram video and went, I could have done that better.
Oh, wow. No, they're exactly the same. Yeah. All I did was export the audio from my, from that each song. Yeah. It's just the audio from all those videos.
Well, amazing job, Blu, no doubt, because, if that's the case, and, I'm sure you might have had 1 or 2 takes that you redid if you wanted to re-record it to get it right for Instagram. But by the time you got to the one that you put on Instagram, sure. They sound fantastic. I like all of them. I have to be honest. I got through all of the first volume, and I'm working through part of the second.
It's a lot of songs.
But I
felt bad.
I watched all of them. What I would do though is I wouldn't be there at 10 in the morning bugging you about, hey, why aren't you on? I would marathon one. So on Sunday nights, I would come home and I'd be like, all right, let's go see. Nope, Blu's got a video. Well, now I got to watch the other 7 I haven't watched, and I kind of binged watched you every 7 days or so. Hey, so you got this going, and I guess we kind of touched on it. You're trying to figure out what you want to do in the future.
Sure.
Future projects are sort of limited to whenever you can get back into the game. But what is your long-term, hey, I'm reevaluating my life?
Let me answer the music part of that
music.
first.
Let's do the music part. That's really what I want to know. Yeah.
So this has actually helped me get some more co-writes. I've written, one of my favorite people to write with, and probably everybody's favorite person to write with, is Lori McKenna. If you know Lori, Lori's had a lot of success lately, but because Lori is amazing. I've been writing with her for a long time. We've always written over FaceTime, even before COVID. And we've written a handful of times. We wrote a great song not too long ago with Mike Eli, the Eli Young Band, that, I hope maybe get some legs at some point. This has been nice for me to I think it's been a good way for me to present myself as a songwriter. I still have dreams of getting songs cut and maybe getting a publishing deal. I don't, if I can survive and not get a publishing deal, I think everyone would. If you can get cuts and own your own publishing, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just giving up your music usually for nothing. And this has been a good exercise for me. Get my chops back up, sing, play some new songs, and just sort of say, this is me. That now someone can listen to a lot of songs if they want to check my music out, even just professionally, not just as a music fan. So that stuff is good. I've been writing my buddy Abe and Eubanks, who plays guitar for Kelly Clarkson. We've written songs. We have a couple on the 50, and we've written for a long time and been friends for a long time since we lived in Austin a long time ago in the 90s. We've been writing lately. He'll send me tracks, and I'll write words, and melody to tracks, and I really like that stuff. I mean, the goal with that is to look for syncs, film and TV stuff. That's kind of one of the only places you can make money unless you have a single. So those things, and I've done that with him for a long time. But this time of sort of self-exploration, creatively or even professionally or otherwise, I've just been digging in and really being creative, which it's easy to be lazy and not be creative. For somehow this time at home has really helped me just focus and really get a lot of creative stuff done. So I'm excited about that stuff. I don't know. I mean, people ask, you gonna go on the road again? You gonna open for Matt again? I mean, I don't know. It's a small fortune to get out and go on the road. I would love to play more. I hope to do that. I definitely have been revitalized musically and creatively, and I feel strong creatively. So, I mean, hopefully I'll just continue to do what I'm doing. I mean, nobody can stop you from writing songs. So
Absolutely.
Keep swinging.
Well, you could always learn. You could always learn Stairway to Heaven.
I mean, I actually have a list of songs. I mean, I emailed one of my buddies who plays downtown a lot in cover bands, and he's a drummer, and he's emailing me like the list of all the songs. I mean, do I want to learn a bunch of Luke Bryan songs? Yeah. Not really, but I have learned a couple, and it's like you can pick the ones you like, and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's actually a pretty good song. You're like you sort of get a better perspective on stuff. I mean, I probably won't sing one margarita, two margarita shot, but maybe. I mean, it's like, wait a minute, this guy and people like him have fun all the time with music, and I've like lived a life like torturing myself to try to be this heart-wrenching, honest singer-songwriter, and there's not a lot of fun in that kind of stuff. And so I say it a lot about country artists and country audiences in general. You go to a country festival, people are having a killer time. They're just like hanging out in the sun and drinking beer, and that's it. Like, that sounds great. That's what am I doing with my life? Like, what have I done this whole time? I'm like, let me just stab myself in the heart again. I didn't, and like rehash all my ex-girlfriends in a song one more time. Like, what is that? Why these guys are like they're like on four-wheelers in the mud with like girls in bikinis, and they really are doing that. Like, that's right. Not a joke. They're actually like, oh, let's go drive four-wheelers out of the mud. That sounds incredible. Like, that's amazing. Wait a minute, they have it right. They've been doing it right this whole time. Meanwhile, I'm like, do you think I can get 6 people to come to the coffee shop and hear me, spill my guts again? Like, what have I done? I've always kind of said, like, I went coffee shop and I should have gone country. So I think a lot of it, like, even learning a bunch of cover songs, like I was singing through a Luke Combs song the other day, and I was like, okay, well, this is a pretty good song. It's like, wait a minute, take a step back, buddy. It's not, there's a lot of paths here. There's a lot of ways. Everything doesn't have to be self-torture. You could actually sing a song and whoop it up and have a good time and not be ashamed of that. So those are all little lessons to be learned, I think. I really do.
So listen, this has been a fascinating introspection and history on my friend Blu Sanders. And listen, for those of you who don't know, get out, go to iTunes, go to Spotify, look him up. It's BLU Sanders on Spotify or iTunes or on all streaming platforms. And check out his latest 2 albums. He did a 50 and 50 for really no reason at all, out of it just got there. And he's got 2 great albums that have come out of it, An Exercise in Loneliness, Volume 1 and Volume 2. They're available now. And if you want, as I quote Blu, if you got an hour and a half to kill on each album, it's a great buy. It's something I really enjoy, and I appreciate having the time to catch up with you, Blu, and I hope that we get to do this again very soon. Right after this, folks, is the second half of Live at Chance's house, and I'm going to be playing a little tunes for you, and hopefully we get to catch up again very soon. And Blu, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You bet. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
All right. You have a great day.
Thanks.